Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Let's get right into breaking down the most crucial headlines from November 11th, 2025, and really connect the dots for your UPSC prep.
We have to start with today's top story, and it's a serious one, coming out of the capital. A blast near the Red Fort in Delhi has put the entire country on high alert. It's really a stark reminder of the kind of internal security challenges that are always there just under the surface.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to tackle this syllabus style, right? We'll start with internal security, then jump into polity and governance, hit economy and environment, look at India and the world, and then touch on some social issues before we wrap it all up with the key things you need to remember.
Okay, first up, let's dive into our lead stories. These fall right into the heart of your GS Paper 3 syllabus, focusing on those big internal security threats and how the country is responding.
So let's unpack what we know so far. The blast was in a vehicle, and we know at least 20 people have been injured. Now, the key things to watch are that one person has been detained, and the Home Minister has said all possibilities are being explored. Now, for you, as an aspirant, that phrase is a huge signal. It means investigators are looking at everything, from a random local incident all the way up to a coordinated terror plot. The fact that there's a nationwide alert tells you just how seriously they're taking this.
And, while all of this is going down in the capital, there's another major security story unfolding up in Jammu and Kashmir. Just look at this number for a second. 2,900 kilograms. That's the staggering amount of material used for making IEDs that was just seized. It's a massive, massive intelligence victory.
And this wasn't just some small, local operation. No way! This network had links across states and internationally, tied to groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed. But here's the detail that should really grab your attention for GS Paper 3. The people arrested included professionals, even doctors. Officials are calling it a white-collar terror ecosystem, and that is so crucial. It points to this really concerning trend of radicalization spreading beyond the usual stereotypes and into the educated, professional classes of society.
All right, let's shift gears. We're moving on to our second section now, polity, governance, and the judiciary. You know this is all absolutely critical for your GS Paper 2 prep.
We're going to start with this incredibly powerful and really thought-provoking statement from Justice B.V. Nagaratna of the Supreme Court. She said this during a hearing on the Women's Reservation Bill, and man, it just perfectly frames the entire debate, doesn't it?
So what's the actual problem here? Well, the act is officially law, but here's the catch. It can't be implemented until two other things happen: the next census and the delimitation exercise that follows, redrawing all the constituency boundaries. And we don't have a fixed date for either. So the Supreme Court is basically asking, what's going on here? The law has a 15-year sunset clause, but how can that 15-year clock even begin if the reservation itself is stuck in limbo indefinitely? It's a huge constitutional puzzle. Next up, we have a major political flashpoint developing. This special intensive revision of electoral rolls, it's being met with some really fierce opposition. I mean, the West Bengal chief minister is calling it a super emergency and vote Bundy, basically a ban on voting. The Tamil Nadu CM says it's a political weapon. Now, the government's official line is that this is just a routine procedural update, but the fact that you have such strong, coordinated pushback really shines a light on some serious friction in our federal structure. And now for a quick lightning round of other important updates. The Supreme Court is going to hear a contempt plea against the Telangana speaker for dragging his feet on MLA disqualifications. A lower court's order to investigate BJP leader Kapil Mishra's role in the 2020 Delhi riots, that's been set aside. And down in Karnataka, some officials have been suspended over claims of VIP treatment inside Bangalore's central prison.
Okay, let's switch things up and talk about the economy and the environment, another absolutely critical piece of the GS Paper 3 puzzle. We'll look at some key policies and pressing challenges.
This slide really captures a fascinating policy problem. So the government set up this scheme to get global EV makers to come to India. The deal was, we'll slash import duties for you if you promise to make a big investment in local manufacturing. The problem? Well, as you can see, zero takers. No one bid. Which makes you wonder, right? Was the investment requirement just too high? Or are the big global players still a bit hesitant about the Indian market? The government is now back to the drawing board, trying to figure that out.
Now, this is a big one for anyone who shops online, which is pretty much all of us, right? The government is thinking about making it mandatory for e-commerce sites to have a country of origin filter. The idea is to let you search for products based on where they were made. They're saying the goals are, 1, to give consumers more power and choice, and 2, to boost the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India initiative.
Okay, a quick look at some other crucial updates. Delhi's air quality is still stuck in the very poor category. And weirdly enough, the Central Pollution Control Board actually failed to release its daily data. Over in Andhra Pradesh, the estimated damage from Cyclone Manda is staggering, over 6,300 crore rupees. And on the tech side of things, TRI is pushing for a new rule that could make your phone calls between different networks a whole lot clearer.
All right, let's zoom out now to the global stage with our India and the World segment. This is, again, directly relevant to your GS Paper 2 studies.
Let's do a quick tour of India's recent diplomatic moves. Over in the east, ties with Vietnam are getting even stronger, especially around maritime security, which is a clear signal about the dynamics in that region. To our south, Sri Lanka's new prime minister is trying to do a delicate balancing act, keeping both India and China happy. Our neighborhood first policy is also in full swing, with more citizens being rescued from Myanmar. And if we look west, the upcoming elections in Iraq could be a really important chance for India to shore up its energy security.
In our last content section, we're going to touch on some issues of society and culture. These are the kinds of topics that often pop up in GS Paper 1 and, of course, the essay paper.
The debate over the national song, Vande Mataram, is back in the spotlight. On one side, you have proponents, like the UP government, who are making it compulsory in schools, saying it instills national pride. On the other side, you have opponents, arguing that you can't force patriotism. The Samajwadi Party chief is questioning why people are being forced to choose, and the Congress is accusing the government of twisting history for political gain.
And just a quick, but socially very significant update from Madhya Pradesh. The state government there has increased the monthly allowance under its popular Ladli Behna welfare scheme. It's now up to 1,500 rupees, a key example of a direct benefit transfer scheme in action.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So let's just pause and boil it all down. What are the absolutely crucial points from today's news that you should be locking in for your exam prep?
So if you connect the dots, I think 4 major themes really jump out from today's news. First, the changing face of internal security. You've got urban threats like the Delhi blast on one hand, and the dismantling of these sophisticated white-collar terror networks on the other. Second, there are growing tensions in our federal structure, and you can see that so clearly in the heated arguments over electoral rules. Third, the constant balancing act of economic policy. How do you push Make in India without scaring away foreign investment? And finally, the ongoing importance of judicial activism, with the Supreme Court really stepping in to hold the executive accountable on implementing laws.
And we'll leave you with this final thought to really chew on. When you have a nation juggling these immediate, high-stakes security threats on one hand and the slow, complicated work of political and economic reform on the other, what should be the #1 priority? Where does the policy focus need to be to make sure we have not just safety today, but real long-term stability and growth for everyone? That's definitely something to think about. We'll catch you on the next one.